My mother, who's very skeptical of all politicians, says, well, if he can write a book like that, he's not all that bad. And for me, I say, for a man who likes Afrobeat and the music of Fela Kuti, he can't be all that bad. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me in welcoming President John Mahama.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Bernard, for that kind introduction. And I'll just make a short statement, and after that, we can get on with the Q&A. It'll be simple enough to stand here and share with you all of the successes that have been experienced on the African continent over the past several years. And there have been many successes in the areas of social and economic growth, successes when it comes to the practice and promotion of peace, when it comes to transparency in the exercise of democracy, and the respect for the rule of law. The examples are many, and the stories are inspiring. But I'm certain that everyone here is well aware of Africa's past, all of it beginning from the infamous Scramble for Africa to the heady days of independence, from the devastation that was caused by coups d'etats, dictatorships, war and famine, to the hope that has of late been shining brightly over Africa's horizon. I'm certain that everyone here is well aware that success in Africa has never been simple. It has involved the struggle against low expectations, the assessment of risk versus reward, and the challenge of balancing the commission of profit with the empowerment of people. I imagine that we're here today, what we're here to do today is to imagine Africa's future, imagine the roles that we can and could play in shaping that future. In the early 1970s, despite the difficulties of the time, young people all across the continent, myself included, had enormous afros. We wore polyester shirts and platform shoes and spent as many waking moments as we could dancing in discos. I remember a song by the OJs that was popular back then. The chorus of the song was one question: the dilemma of what to do with something valuable once you had achieved it. And that was, now that we found love, what are we going to do with it? It is a bold question, one that I believe is currently at the heart of many relationships in Africa, all of which are rapidly being redefined. The relationship between citizens and elected officials, the relationship between governments and donors, as well as investors. And of course, it's a question that exists at the heart of the relationship between the continent as a whole and the rest of the world. Now that we've found love, what are we going to do with it? How do we ensure that this success Africa is experiencing is sustainable? How do we translate the glowing figures that we see on paper into plain facts in the lives of African people? That is the fact of employment, the fact of affordable healthcare, the fact of education, the fact of class, gender, and ethnic equality. Towards the close of 2012, the IMF released a World Economic Outlook in which it forecast the economic growth of 185 countries. Based on those estimates, 10 of the 25 countries with the highest projected compounded annual growth rates from 2013 through 2017 are in sub-Saharan Africa, and Ghana, my country, is one of them. But is this mass economic growth on the continent still as impressive when one takes into consideration that, thus far, it has essentially been a jobless growth? Because the population is growing at a rate that is faster than the rate at which jobs are being created. Consider this as well. Africa's rapidly expanding labor force, which will increase from 500 million that it currently is, to 1.1 billion by the year 2014, making the continent's collective labor force larger than that of China and India. And then there's also the issue of urbanization. 30 years ago, 28% of the continent's residents lived in cities. Today, that figure is 40%. And in my own country, that figure is 53%. Of the 1 billion residents in Africa, 40% live in cities. That places us on a par, not in the future, but today with China and India. And within 15 years, that figure will rise to above 50% averagely. In certain countries, urbanization is creating overpopulated slums. In others, it has become the driving force behind the accelerated construction of roads, social housing, commercial buildings, water systems, power generation, and other like projects. If not taken properly into account, this expansion of population, of labor force, and of urban centers could be crippling to the continent. It could undermine the apparent gains of our current economic growth. But there's no reason why it should not automatically be a part of everyone's vision for Africa's future. At the core of our investment in projects must be our investment in the people of Africa and in the continuity of Africa's success. We must make sure that jobs are being created for the people who need them. We must provide education and training so that tomorrow's workforce will possess the necessary skills for industry. Structural provisions should be made so that our people, honest, hardworking citizens, can also have a stake in industry. Otherwise, all of this will merely be this century's version of a new scramble for Africa. In Ghana, to ensure local participation in the new oil and gas industry, a draft legislative instrument on local content will ensure a backward integration of the extraction of this natural resource into the local economy. Downstream processing of gas, fertilizer production, refining of petroleum products will ensure value addition and the creation of precious jobs that will engage our fast-growing youthful population. Africa seeks a partnership that will be a win-win for the continent's people and those who wish to invest there. A partnership that transfers technology, a partnership that creates jobs, a partnership that ensures growth and a decent life for our people. Challenges of transformation exist, and we in leadership in Africa must address issues of building the required human capital. We must strengthen our institutions through public sector reform, and we must ensure accountability in leadership. But we must also build partnerships that leverage private investment in providing critical social and economic infrastructure. Private investment has transformed telecommunications in Africa, and it is transforming the energy and power sectors, and is certainly the vehicle for leveraging the critical investments to move Africa to the next level. Africa has come a long way. Smart business and smart politics are not mutually exclusive. Perhaps 30 or 40 years ago they were, but a lot has changed in Africa since then, and we need to shift our expectations so that they fall in line with what is possible today and not what was probable back then. Gone are the nationalist regimes, gone are the frequent coups d'etats, the interminable wars, skyrocketing inflation, corrupt, pot-bellied dictators. Those risks are not relevant in this age of multi-party elections and political stability. Our democracies may not be perfect, but they are rising up to each and every challenge. This is an exciting time for Africa. The energy of what will come next is almost palpable. I can feel it in this room. I can feel it in every room in which discussions of Africa are taking place. Change takes time, but look at where we were not so long ago, bent and broken. Look at where we are now, standing tall and facing forward. This is much more than a story of Africa's success. This is a story of Africa's survival. Thank you.